Addendum.
Let me repeat.
Yeah.
We're doing the FHA Addendum. It's the second, they're the last tab, second page in. All right, you guys. Can you guys hear me online?
Yeah. Yes.
It's a better view with this camera. It doesn't get my bald spot.
I was thinking it's kind of high up.
It's okay. It's all it is. As long as I don't get my bald spot, we're good. All right. This form, if you're writing a BA or an FHA addendum, this actually is one of two forms you're going to use. There is going to, and this is where it's gotten crazy because agents out there don't understand that there is a second form that the mortgage company is going to provide once you have a deal. And once you have the deal, it gets specific to the mortgage company and they will actually supply it. But you need to produce this one when you're writing an offer, all right? As in any addendum, it's always going to refer and tie back until or into the purchase agreement. This addendum is part of and incorporated into an agreement of sale dated, and that's the date of the purchase agreement that you, in this case, you're writing this at the same time, so it's going to have the date you're writing the purchase agreement. For the property located at, that's the address of the property you're writing the offer on. For all you guys that are new, there's no such thing as a dumb question, so feel free to ask them. And Tammy will ask them for you if you don't. So, or Doug will help me on the
I was
spot.
waiting for it.
The Doug thing. I got my two favorite whipping posts here, Doug and Tammy. It expressly agreed that notwithstanding any other provisions of this contract, the purchaser shall not be obligated to complete the purchase of the property described herein or to incur any penalty by forfeiture of earnest money deposit or otherwise unless the purchaser has been given in accordance with HUD, FHA, or VA requirements, a written statement issued by a Federal Housing Commission Veteran Affairs or a direct endorsed lender setting forth the appraised value of the property of not less than. Don't put an amount there. Write the words sales price. Okay. For everybody that's new, right now in the market we're in here, I'll ask this question to all the new ones here. What are we in, a buyer's or a seller's market?
Sellers.
Seller's market.
Sellers.
When you meet with your clients, your buyers, and we talk about this a lot, I'm going to keep emphasizing it. The conversation you need to have with your buyer is very simple. List price is starting price. And by that, I mean, in the old days or before the market we've been in, you know, you'd negotiate. If it was 150, you might write an offer for 145 and hopefully you settle somewhere in between. Now you're starting at list price and the prices are only going up. You're going from 150 to 160 to 170 and it gets really confusing, okay? And our purchase agreement, which we'll get to, not today, there's a line in there that says if the home doesn't appraise, buyer can, you know, kill the deal, the offer is going to be declared null and void and all earnest money will be received. What's happening is people are guaranteeing the money over the appraised value. So it's 150. Somebody may say the offer is for 170 and I'll guarantee $15,000 over the appraised value. So if the appraisal comes in at 150, you wrote an offer for 170, you'd be paying 165 for it, okay? And unfortunately, that's the hardest thing in this market right now. And most of the time when you're dealing with FHA and VA, clients don't have the extra money to guarantee that appraisal. So when you're writing a VA or an FHA offer now, it's pretty hard to get them approved, okay? I'm not gonna say impossible, but it's very hard. Now, VA, actually, what's the difference between an FHA loan and a VA loan? Nothing gets by Doug. Anybody want to give us a better answer than that one?
I didn't hear what Doug said, but FHA.
I asked, what's the difference between a VA and an FHA, and he said VA is for veterans.
With a VA loan, you don't have to put any money down.
Okay, what's
And
your answer?
The government guarantee
On a which one?
on the VA loan.
And what's an FHA?
It's insured,
yeah, it's
Is that
insured by
hope?
the- yeah.
Michelle, insured.
That is correct. It's insured, so there's a difference. So who's insured and who's guaranteed? Why, what does that term mean?
Well, with the FHA. I think
FHA is insured.
You have to pay for that insurance though with FHA.
Correct.
So
But who's getting insured? Exactly, it's the
The
lender.
lender.
Don't think it's the buyer, it's the lender that's taking, because the lender's taking the risk, right?
right.
So they're insured in case the buyer defaults, hopefully they get their money back. On a VA loan, it's guaranteed that they're getting their money back. Okay, when I say they, the mortgage company, bank. Okay. Some of the other differences are obviously, like Angela was saying, it's zero down. You can a veteran put money down? Absolutely. And what's the minimum on an FHA loan?
3.5.
3.5%.
Correct. Okay, so even though this last line says setting forth the appraised value of the property of less than that, can a purchaser on an FHA or VA loan go higher and guarantee above sales price?
Yes.
You got a 50% chance of being right on this one, you guys.
Yes.
Who's going with yes?
Love the sales price.
Who's going with no?
I am.
You going with no? They can go higher. What the first part of that paragraph says is they don't have to, okay? See, I'm going to read the next line. The purchaser shall have the privilege and option of proceeding with the consummation of the contract without regard to the amount of the appraised valuation.
Like halfway through the period.
Yeah, under the blank.
Okay.
So purchaser shall have the privilege and option of proceeding with the consummation of the contract without regard to the amount of appraised valuation. In other words, if it doesn't appraise, they can buy the house. But what's the difference if it doesn't? Here's my trick question. First one of the day. You don't get to answer, nor you, Tammy. Do lenders lend on, is the appraised value based on sales price? Or, I'm going to confuse myself. Sales price or the appraised value? Oh, how did you know that answer?
I just passed the course, so.
That's pretty good because very few people come up with that. Most people say on the appraised value. It's actually the lesser of the two. And the reason being is, let's say you write an offer for $120,000 and the appraisal comes in at 100. The bank, and you're putting 10% down on a loan. The bank is going to lend you 90% of 100,000. Okay, not of 120. What happens if the home appraises for 140,000? They're going to lend you on the 90% of the 120. So it's always the lesser amount of the appraised value or the sales price. So in this case, if it doesn't appraise, the FHA buyer or the VA buyer can go higher. Okay. And very honestly, in the market we're in, it's going to be impossible, damn near impossible to get something through that if they're not going to guarantee the appraisal or some portion of the appraisal. Okay. The appraised valuation is right to determine the maximum mortgage the Department of Housing and Urban Development will insure. HUD does not warrant the value nor condition of the property. The purchaser should satisfy himself that the price and condition of the property are acceptable. So they're not saying buy it or don't buy it, is all they're saying, this is how much we're gonna lend on. Does that make sense? You guys, we good with that?
Yep.
All right,
The buyers I was working with, Pete, they won't, the lender won't do an appraisal guarantee. Is that standard for FHA or is that just the type of
no,
loan?
we say that they won't let them guarantee a part of it. Is
The
that what
lender
you're
told me
saying,
no.
Phil?
He said no appraisal guarantees. That's what the lender told me. Now we
Well-
have missed it too, so I don't know if maybe that has something
Now,
to do
hold
with it.
on a second, Phil. Was that specific to that buyer? Which is
Yes.
what I think he was telling you. So
Well,
why did he say that?
Well, that's what I'm asking you. Is that standard across FHA or is that just, you think that was just my buyer?
Well, anybody want to join in on that one? Doug?
I would have
Tammy?
to say it's just the buyer,
Why?
based on how much money he has in the bank.
They obviously, my guess, I shouldn't say obviously, I'm assuming it's because they don't have the money, and that's kind of what I was talking about at the beginning. If you don't have the extra money, you can't guarantee the appraisal. If they've got, let's say they need $7,000 between their 3.5% down and their closing costs, that's all they got. And if it appraises for $5,000 less, they don't have $5,000 more dollars to put in there.
Right, they gotta make up the difference.
Right. Does that make sense, Phil?
Right, so that's not an FHA thing. That's just specific to
No.
them because of their.
No,
their
that's
cash
what this
situation.
paragraph is talking about.
Okay, all right,
They-
thanks.
As they say here, the purchaser shall have the privilege and option of proceeding with the consummation of the contract. However, you're coming out of pocket with that money. Okay? All right. Any questions on that part? I haven't heard Warren jump in yet. You awake over there, Warren? All right. Seller agrees to pay up to towards purchaser's closing costs, tax prorations, prepaid expenses, and/or discount points. Now, again, why would a seller pay someone's closing costs, tax prorations, prepaid expenses, and/or discount points?
To
Why
help
would a
them,
seller want to do that?
to help them to get approved.
Correct.
Thank you.
Most people.
I'm
You're
happy.
welcome. Most people, let me rephrase that. Do you think most people, this is a question, can afford their payment? Or most people have the money to put down on their loan and their closing costs? You
Payments,
had to pick one.
I feel
Amen.
that,
payments.
I feel that they can make the payments. It's just getting the money up to get the loan. Because the lender wouldn't approve it if they weren't qualified.
Okay, so here's I'll just put it to you nice and blunt. As a society, we suck at savings. I mean, that's the bottom line. And so Doug may be good he's got a good job, but Doug's pissing away money like Doug does. So it comes time to write his offer. Guess what he doesn't have? He doesn't have a lot of money. Okay, but he can more than afford the payment. So the only way Doug may get into a house is if the seller helps to or contributes to the closing costs. Now, again, in today's market, do you think that's something that's going to happen? No. So if you look at it this way, if a seller gets what they want, do you think they're happy with helping the buyer get in? At the end of the day is if they can get in, if Doug can get in and Tammy gets what she wants as the seller, Tammy's going to say, that's fine, I don't care, right? So what do you think happens though in a situation like even, if in today's world you could get one through? What happens to the price of the home at that point? It gets inflated. So, if Tammy's contributing $5,000 to Doug, the price is probably going up $5,000. What's the negative on that?
Will it appraise?
The house has to appraise at the higher amount. And if it doesn't appraise, Tammy's not giving Doug his $5,000, is she? So discount points and all of that are great in I'll call it a normal market or a balanced market. It's a lot harder in today's market to get those. All right.
Hey, Pete.
So, yes.
So at what point in the, at the buyer's consultation, or like, how do you put that in an addendum right away if you know that that your buyer's gonna need?
When you say put in an
Concessions?
addendum right away, what do you mean?
Like, at what point in the conversation do you have that? Like,
Well,
how
it's
do you-
not going into an addendum with your buyer. It's going to go on this, which is getting presented to the, with the purchase agreement. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, but back up a second here, and you guys, I'm big on having buyer consultations. Most important thing you can do. What's one of the things you're asking during a buyer's consultation? Lots of things, but I'll make
About
it
the
easy.
financing,
Yeah. Okay. Where are you, Warren? What do you mean about their finance? You keep moving on my screen. What do you? This
just
is Hollywood.
when you're doing that consultation, you're just inquiring about their financing and what options they're looking at, and then specifically what they're thinking to kind of just understand how you want to negotiate going forward or act
Okay.
going forward.
You guys heard this term? Buyers are liars?
Buyers are liars.
Get that one in your head real quick. Buyers are liars, okay? And it's not necessarily a negative thing. What's the smart thing you could do, Warren, when you start talking to somebody? Do you think people know what they can do or not do?
Yes.
I think some do, not all of them.
I would assume no.
Tell them to get that
I
pre-approved.
don't think a lot of people look at their credit and their finances.
Here's the thing. Here's the question I have. Is it Levance? So Levance, you and I are sitting down. You were referred to me by Doug. I'm gonna have a much better experience with you than Doug.
Hey, I'm still collecting money.
So I ask you, Levance, so you're ready to buy a house. First thing I'm gonna ask you, have you sat and talked to a mortgage rep?
Not yet.
Okay. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to give you the name and number, or let me rephrase that. What I'm gonna do, Levant, is I'm gonna have my mortgage guy give you a call. Okay? And I want you to, he's gonna ask you some questions and figure out what's going on. All right? So if my mortgage guy, Derek, calls you and you don't answer your phone 3 or 4 times, guess what I'm doing? I'm losing interest in you real quick. Okay?
Not serious.
Exactly right. So then the other option is, Levant, so have you talked to mortgage rep? Go the other way now.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm sure he went over everything. Would it be okay if I gave him a call just to see how we need to structure the deal? As opposed to, would it be okay to see if you qualify? Which one sounds better? That's a question, you guys.
The first one, the first.
Structure the deal.
I got, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely I can.
They're right there.
Yeah, there's our mortgage company is right there. And understand why I worded it the way I did. If I say, I gotta see if you qualify, you might be saying, I'm not sure I like this guy. However, if I say, I need to find out how we structure the deal, doesn't that sound a hell of a lot better? with
Yes.
How we're dealing with things? So I'm calling up Derek and saying, Derek, hey, you got a chance to talk to Levant? I just need to know how I structure the deal. Do they need seller concessions? What do I need? How do I need to do that? So I'm going to let the mortgage person tell me how to handle it. Okay. I know more about mortgages than most people. After 29 years, I probably should. However, I'm not a mortgage rep. I want them to tell me how they want me to handle it. Okay. And if they say, well, I'll get you his number. And again, I never get a number from you. your guys are gonna realize if people don't share their information with you, there's a reason. Okay, and usually they're not good reasons. So if you need to cut bait with somebody, better here than after 3 months when you go to write an offer and you think everything's nice and fine, and you realize that you don't have 2 cents to put towards a mortgage. But I just wasted, 2 months. Yes.
Does Levance need to call his mortgage guy and give permission before you? Can
That's
call or do
that's a good question. He probably should.
Give him a heads up at least.
Yeah, I would give him a heads up. Does he have to? Probably not. Let's say I called up and I said, Doug, hey, Levance asked me to give you a call. I'm working with him. Let me back up. You know how I would read that conversation? Doug, we have a mutual client. Okay, Levance asked me I've been working with him and I'm going to be showing him homes. And he asked me to give you a call. Now, could the loan rep say, well, I better check with Levance to see if it's,
See, I totally would want to do that, and I would want him.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
I'll tell you.
also,
It's never happened.
Yeah.
the conversation was, hey, how do you recommend I structure a deal? You're not asking for any. personal
well, and that's
information.
exactly
So if
right.
you said,
Good
hey, how
point.
much money does Levon have
Yeah.
in the bank? That guy's gonna be like,
Yeah, I'm not asking about personal information. And that's why you guys, when I said I'm not a mortgage rep, I don't care what your finances are. I don't care about any of that.
But you want to know how much.
I just want to know, can you afford the house?
Stop,
You wanna know
waste my time.
Yeah. So, but your point, Deb, is true. If it gets to the point about discussing confidential information, then he probably should ask Levance if it's okay. But
Isn't all of that personal information?
If I
What
say-
house can you afford? What type of down
Well,
payment?
no,
any of that?
if I'm saying, how do I have to structure the deal? I'm not asking, how much does he make? What's his credit score? And those are probably the two biggest confidential information points, right?
and you
Yeah.
probably already have a pre-approval letter.
That's correct. Correct.
So you already know.
He's approved for, a pre-approval coming to me is going to say Levance is approved for $175,000 FHA.
Right.
But again, does that tell me some pre-approvals will say with seller's concessions of 3%? Okay, but you guys, what's the difference between a pre-approval and a pre-qualification?
Pre-call that did more homework. Pre-approval.
Well, hold on, be careful how you say that.
Opposite.
A pre-qualification is not where the paper is written on. Okay? Be a pre-qualification, people, oh yeah, I went online, I'm pre-qualified. But guess what a pre-qualification is? On the bottom of it, it'll say, subject to the following: verification of employment, verification of funds, verification of this, verification of that. That's nothing, okay? A pre-approval, and I'll be honest, you guys, a lot of banks, like Chase and some of the other ones, they won't call it a pre-approval. They'll call it a pre-qualification. So everybody treats things differently. I want to see a true pre-approval. Let me rephrase that. Do you guys think there's an absolute pre-approval out there? 100%.
Close.
Called underwriting.
Well, and that's true, and that's true, and that's true. So can the person get 100% pre-approved? And what do I mean by that? I'm going to answer the first question. Is there 100% pre-approval? No. Can the person get 100% pre-approved?
Yeah, based on their.
Yes.
No, no cash.
Yes, but not the dollar amount of the loan, like.
No, they can. You can get totally
I
pre-approved.
say yes.
And the answer is yes, you can get totally pre-approved, the person. But what you're not going to have is a total pre-approval, because what ultimately has to still be pre-approved is the property. Okay? You got to have clear title on the property, and it's got to appraise. All right? So you may be perfect. Okay? And when I talk to your loan rep, he's going to say He's great. He's gone through underwriting. That means they verified everything. And the only thing we need is a property. And we need to make sure that property, forget where we're at in this world about appraisals. In a normal world, the house needs to appraise, and we got to make sure there's clear title, because if there's no clear title, guess what? You're not buying that house, right? So the person can get 100% pre-approved, but you're not going to have a 100% pre-approved. That makes sense, you guys? Does that make sense online? Shake your head. So it's important when you talk at the beginning about at the buyer's consultation, how do they need this? You know, I talk to you, Levant says, hey, this is my loan rep, Doug. Why don't you give him a call if you have any questions? Or I ask if he doesn't volunteer it, I'm going to say, is it okay if I give Doug a call? I just need to figure out what's the best way to structure this deal. He's going to say, great. Okay. Don't use the term, I got to see if you can afford it. That is, words are powerful, you guys. And that is a very powerful word in the wrong way. Exactly. It's an insult. All right. FHA VA completion of and payment for repairs. Every home during an appraisal is going, or every home during the process, mortgage process, is going to have an appraisal on. Conventional will look at major issues quickly. VA and FHA is going to do an inspection on a property. And they're looking for, what are they looking for?
Everything's up to code.
You know, it's interesting. That's what they should be looking for. But they have a little different term. And I think they use this because I don't really think they know what code is necessarily. I think that because cities can have different codes. I mean, there's national, city, whatever. They're looking for health and safety violations, okay? And that's the term they're probably going to use. So if there's open junction boxes or plumbing issues that, you know, are leaking, missing handrails, things like that, peeling paint.
Shingles fall on.
Maybe they may look at that. And here's the thing, yeah, remember, you could, not every city, now I'm going to change up a little here. Not every city has a private inspection or a city inspection. But let's take a city like Garden City, which does. You could be buying the house, Michael, and in that, you wanted to go FHA, you're going to have 3 inspections. You're going to have a private inspection, you're going to have a City of Garden City inspection, and you're going to have an FHA inspection. What's the best inspection for the client? The private one is going to be far more inclusive. A good inspector is going to take an hour and a half to 2 hours to go through there. How long? The city inspection might take 15 to 20, no, they might be 15 to 20 minutes. But an FHA inspection is, okay, we're done. We're done. Oh, yeah. They're looking for, well, they used to have a really bad rep. FHA inspections are nowhere near what they used to be, okay? They may nab you for concrete that's uneven, okay? But very honestly, if it's a city with a city inspection, they're gonna flag it too, okay? So they're not that big a deal anymore. So if we get out of the market we're in and going back to a normal market, it's not that hard to overcome someone saying, oh my God, you're doing a city or FHA inspection. It's not a big deal. So, but yes.
Does the buyer pay for the city and the FHA inspection as well as the private?
The buyer pays for the FHA inspection. It's in their cost to the mortgage company. The city inspection is usually the seller and the buyer's paying for the private.
Okay.
So, all right. Seller shall complete and pay not more than blank for repairs, improvements of reinspection fees required by the FHA or VA in order to complete this transaction. So what do you, okay, I'm sorry, you guys, back to 2, we never talked about an amount. That's what's going to come from the mortgage company. If they say I need 3%, then you could put 3% or a dollar amount. And it's the same thing here. X amount for repairs. Well, you're not going to be able to rely on the mortgage company, are you? To tell you how much those repairs are because you haven't even had the inspection done. What are you going to put in there, you guys?
What I've been seeing is most people want to put in like $1 or $10 or $100.
On FHA or VAs?
That's what I've been
And
seeing.
that's probably right now, because again, if you're trying to get this offer through, all right, the more you put in there, that's less that the seller's getting, right?
Why would you put it
You don't need to. At that point, you could put 0. Absolutely.
in? Most of the ones I've been seeing has been $1.
Yeah. I'm not sure, and I'm not sure why somebody would put $1 in there. I can replace a light switch cover for $1.
Does the FHA or VA have a requirement that the seller repair it before?
Well, that's we're gonna get
Maybe
to.
that's why it has to be $1 out of the seller's pocket.
No, we're gonna get to that. Because what does that amount say? And if we put $500 in there. Okay, remember that number. If said repairs cost exceeds seller's contribution, purchaser may contribute the excess. In the event purchaser declines to pay for such excess, then sellers at their option may declare this transaction null and void with the deposit returned to the purchaser upon execution of a mutual release. So if I've got $500 in there and the seller agrees to it, FHA comes out and says, you need to fix a handrail going downstairs and fix some peeling paint on the garage. That $500 is probably gonna take care of it, right? So the seller's agreeing to take care of it. If it goes over 500 bucks, and it could be, let's say it's $1,000. Seller says, I'll pay the first 500, but Levance, you're up to pay the next 500. Do you want to pay it? Okay, and that would be a smart thing to do. But all of a sudden, let's say it's a furnace, and it's $3,000. Now, there's different ways to handle that because if it's the shot furnace with FHA, it's probably a bad furnace all the way around. The seller may need to fix it anyway. But the seller says, nope, not buying it. I'll put it back on the market. You say no, it comes back to the seller. And if the seller says, no, I'm not paying for it, then it's going to kill the deal. Okay. Along the same lines, if there is a city inspection, you guys, as a listing agent, you want to make sure you get that done prior to listing the home, not after you list the home. You get an offer already and you find out that there's all sorts of problems with the house. And now Doug thought he was going to get X amount for the house, but after he does these repairs, it just costs him $3,000 or $4,000. Sorry, dude. But that's exactly right. All right, so now let's get to the part about in small print, which I'm not sure why this is small print. All repairs and or improvements must be completed in a workmanlike manner prior to the transaction closing. So going back to what Tammy's question was, guess what? Now, remember that $500 you were kicking in? That has to be kicked in before closing so the work can get done. What's the negative with that?
What if something
I
happens?
might not have the money.
Buyer may not have the money, but even worse, the deal falls apart because you don't get approved for the mortgage or something happens. You spent the money. So I am not fond of that, okay, as a listing agent. Or not a listing, as a buyer's agent. I don't want you guys putting your money out hoping that the deal closes. However, there's times like that. I've seen many a buyer, scrape and paint a garage because it needed to be done. And the seller said, you know what, I really don't want to do that. Okay. So just realize nothing in this is 100% perfect or guaranteed. Got to be a little trust.
Pete, what would you put in those blanks? I guess I didn't hear for 2 and 3.
Seller's appetite.
The
500.
seller's agrees to pay blank. That's the one you're asking the mortgage company. How much help, that's why it's important that you talk to the mortgage company, right? And ask them how the deal needs to be structured. So they'll tell you what needs to be put in. And on this blank, in today's market, the minimum, the littlest you can put in with making this thing stay together. The more you put in, the less chance you have the seller to accept this deal. So I'm not giving you, Phil, a definite dollar amount there.
All right, thanks.
Okay. However, in the event certain repairs cannot be completed due to weather or unforeseen conditions, an escrow for repairs will be created in compliance with FHA or VA requirements. 2 estimates for the work will be required, and an escrow amount of 1.5 times the highest estimate will be established to assure completion of the work.
Are you stating that we need to have professionals do it?
And some of those you're gonna need to. And let's say it's concrete work, and it's the middle of winter, you're selling a house that needs concrete repairs. You need to get 2 estimates. And here's the other thing. Does it say who's putting the escrow money in? No. So again, the buyer may not have the money, because guess what? If the buyer had, let's say you had concrete work that was $1,000, one was 1,000, one was 1,200. Now that 1,200 becomes the one they're going to use, and it's 1.5 times that. So that's an extra $1,800 the buyer would have to put in an escrow. It can be tricky. We had a deal here, you guys. It's all a blur now. It was probably 2 summers ago, because I don't think it was last summer during COVID. One of our agents had a buyer in Taylor, and Taylor has a city inspection, and it just got screwed up totally. To the point work was supposed to get done. The buyer hired someone to come in and do it. Or no, the seller did. And the guy started the work, took all the money, and walked away. The lady finally, the city of Taylor said, if you don't get this work done by X amount, she was already in the house, you can't live there now. You're going to be evicted. I ended up getting suckered into this. I ended up having to go down to Taylor to court to vouch for this lady, to make sure that it was all taken care of. It's not nice when the judge says, okay, so I'm taking your word on this. Luckily, everything came together, but you don't want to be in a position where stuff like that happens. And it does happen, okay? There's no guarantees in this business, you guys. You can do the best you can, and think you did the best thing and the right thing, and it still blow up on you. So am I scaring you guys away?
No.
Ready to go work at McDonald's or something? Go ahead.
So the property inspection happens after we do the sales agreement?
Correct.
Okay.
So you write an offer today, and you're going to put in their inspection to be done within 7 days of signatures. Right. And the FHA inspection is going to be after that. City inspection hopefully is going to be you're going to hopefully see the city inspection when you write an offer.
So hopefully before you start writing this, when client does their own look at the house and stuff like that, they may see some stuff that's obviously kind of damaged, whatever, or need repairs, and bring that to the seller before we even get to the sales contract saying like.
You would like to think the seller should see that, but more importantly, who should see that?
The buyer's agent.
No,
The seller's agent.
correct.
Disclosure.
The seller's agent should be, if I'm walking around with you and I'm going to list your house, I'm going to say, hey, the best thing you can do is take care of this, this, and this.
Right.
So it's not an issue on an inspection. Okay. All right. Any questions on completion and payment of repairs? No. Okay. It is understood between purchaser and seller that any additional personal property listed has no value. What are they talking about there?
Stove, refrigerator, appliances.
Stuff like that. Stove, refrigerators. And what that means is the appraiser, you could have a brand new $2,000 stove, They're not going to say your house, because you have that, is worth $2,000 more. They're appraising the house, not the appliances.
That's considered personal property.
Correct. Correct. All right. Real estate certification, the seller, the purchaser, and the broker hereby certify that the terms of the agreement of sale are true to the best of their knowledge and belief, and it is agreed that any other agreements entered into the parties is fully disclosed and attached to the agreement of sale. So you got this and you got a purchase agreement. Bottom line, you don't have Doug and I agreed to take care of this. If it ain't written, it doesn't exist. All right. All right. Any questions on any of this?
I have one, and it's because I was
Oh,
late. It's Hope. You were talking about appraisal guarantees when I enter, and I want to know if they are allowed on FHA and VA.
yes. Yeah, we did talk about that, Hope, and they can do it just like anything else. The problem is most people going FHA don't have the funds to back up the appraisal guarantee. If they've got the funds, here's a question then. Why do most people go FHA?
They don't have the money.
Because they
Back
put
on
a
money.
little
Assistant.
That's one,
down.
but
The
sometimes
credit.
it's not or the most important reason.
Credit,
What do you want to tell me? What's that?
credit,
Credit.
credit issues.
Exactly. You can get into an FHA loan with a little shakier credit. Okay. So everybody thinks 3.5% because they don't have the money. Sometimes, you guys, there's programs out there, 5% down is better than 3.5% because there's costs that are thrown in there that when all said and done, you might be better off going conventional if your credit is good. So credit in a lot of ways is probably more important on an FHA buyer, or not more important, is the cause for people to go FHA more so than money.
So you have to pay, like, there's whereas
A funding fee.
conventional, yeah, you have up to 20% and a FHA continuation throughout the life.
Yeah, I mean, when you start talking about private mortgage insurance and mortgage insurance, they're two different things. One is FHA and one is conventional. And again, that's why I don't want, somebody comes to me without talking about, hasn't been to talk to a mortgage rep. I have enough to get my way through it. You guys probably should not be trying to talk to somebody about mortgage because you're going to get yourself in trouble. And it's just like when it comes time for a closing, I don't necessarily go over my buyer's closing costs. Anybody know why? I've got Doug and Mike here, and they both, Doug's credit's weak, Mike's credit's good. What his costs from the mortgage company, they could be applying for the exact same loan. You have good credit? You may pay less for that loan than you do. Yeah. So what I don't want to do when I'm going over costs is somebody is say, oh my God, man, you're getting screwed. Why is your cost so high? And agents will do that, not knowing why the costs are the way they are. On a seller side, it's pretty easy to go through all your expenses. They are what they are. With a mortgage, it's a little bit different. I always rely on my mortgage rep to go through the cost of closing for my buyer so they can explain it. All right.
I always found when you're doing closing.
Speak louder so these guys can hear
I
you.
always found when they were doing the closing at the same time, they never actually first doing the sign
The title company?
Yeah, they never actually stated what the number was. They always said this is your cost.
Right. And that's probably the best way to go.
Yeah, they don't want to say it out loud if you're two people, both parties
Yeah.
in the room.
So Hope, did that answer it? I know I kind of got off my usual tangent.
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
So it's just, you guys, knowledge is power in this business. And I'm sitting here telling you not to talk about mortgage, and you don't need to talk about mortgage. What you need to do is put your client in front of the right people. Okay, if somebody comes to you and says, all right, you got a mortgage, your response should be, that's great. You know, would it be okay if I give you Brent, or would it be okay if Brent from Silverline Lending calls you? And you're like, got somebody, well, you know what? It's not going to cost you anything. And you can find out if you're getting a better deal or if the company you're using is doing right by you, right? And at the end of the day, don't you want to make sure, because this is the biggest purchase you're going to make in your life is your house, right? You know, so don't you want to make sure that you're getting a fair deal on this? Most people are going to say yes. Okay. I was going to say something else about that. When you're shopping a mortgage company, what's the most important thing? I want to see how smart you guys are.
The
You
cost
said there.
of,
What'd you say?
I said APR.
Oh.
I say your end of day cost.
APR, your annual percentage rate. Okay, because you could get 2.5%, you could get 3%, but there's so many damn junk fees on yours that your 3% is a better loan. And APR takes all those costs in there and spreads it out. So that should have been something in pre-licensing you guys all learned a lot about, I think, was APR. So it's not, and it's funny, it's not just on a home loan, car loans, everything. Yeah, they have to notice when you're looking at a car loan, they don't necessarily quote interest rate. They quote the APR. So the APR should be basically the same everywhere you go. All right.
There are different banks for sketchier credit as well.
Well, right. Absolutely. Anybody got anything online that they want to talk about? We got about 10 minutes. Go ahead, Hope.
Okay, this is not related to this topic, but it is a contract question that I just ran into. We are in the process of preparing for an inspection on property that you helped me with. And
Thank you.
yes, thank you very much. And the seller's agent or listing agent put in the contract for inspection minimum of 10 days. Now, they want to use the entire 10 days to clean out the garage of collectibles before we inspect. So my response was, I need to add more time in case anything quirky comes up because we're inspecting on the 10th day. She said because she mocked it up, the contract in line 14 to say minimum of 10 days, we don't need to update it.
Hope, I got to look at how it's written. I think she may be right on that because if it's RPA, can you pull up RPA?
She's saying
Yes.
inspection was in of those 10 days.
Can you pull up an inspection clause real
So
quick?
usually with an inspection, if you do it the first day, your time to reply happens right at that first day.
Well, that's
So
where I
if
was
you
going.
have
I
10
wanted
days to do it, then on that 10th day, you still have 2 days to reply.
right. That's where I was going with this. So you used RPA, correct?
I used the one that the KW 140.
Yeah, RPA.
Yeah.
Okay. RPA is written in a fact, like Tammy's saying, there's 4 blanks on it. And I tell you guys to go 7, 2, 2, and 2. And what that means is you have, Mike, you have that with you? That one we were just talking about?
Yeah.
So you have 7 days to get, your home inspected, okay? Then you have 2 days,
Time you receive the report,
yeah, to respond to them. Let me just go over this.
but it's based off of when we get the report.
So in other words, what the hell did I do here?
Yeah, you busted it. You're good. I'll take that.
All right, there you go. Sorry about
Sure.
that. So if you use this one, Hope, so where did she change it? On
let me,
The first blank,
1 second. Let me look at it as well, so we're in alignment.
if she changed it on the first blank, a buyer's expense within blank calendar days from the effective date of this agreement. And this is sometimes where people get confused on this. Each one of those blanks is a separate time frame. Okay, so if I put 7, 2, 2, and 2, in theory, I've got 7 days to have my report done, 2 days to respond to the seller and say I'm moving forward. They have 2 days to respond to me. And it's, I don't know if PA's in there. If it is, you got it?
Yeah, no, I don't see it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it should be.
It should be the first.
The listing or the buyer? No, the buyer.
So 2 days to them to respond. And then if the seller says, no, I'm not doing anything,
Second tab.
Oh, it's in the first one.
then you've got 2 days for the buyer to say, I'll move forward anyways.
Yeah, but we're on page 3.
So to answer your question, it was the second line, this offer is, et cetera, and at the buyer's expense within, and then she put minimum 10 days, 10 calendar days.
What did you originally put in there?
I had 7 in there.
Okay. So she actually extended, which is fine, which is very unusual that a seller would extend the days. So she put expense within a minimum of 10 calendar days. That's fine. Because then it says unless the buyer notifies the seller in writing within blank calendar days, what do you have in there?
I had 3.
Okay, so at the 10th day, if you're doing your inspection on the 10th day, once you have that finalized, you have 3 days to respond to them. So you don't need to change anything.
You have to wait till
Huh?
after the 10th day.
No, well, minimum of 10 days. She's got them doing it on the 10th day. So, go ahead.
So here's the deal though, this buyer is getting like testing and things like that, that is gonna be
What kind of testing?
radon for one, and they're saying the inspection, I just felt like it was really close. The inspection place is saying that it could take 2 to 3 days to get the,
Well, who are you using for an inspector?
what is the name of this group? I have to.
Because most good inspectors, what they do for radon,
Mhm.
it's a 2-day, you'll get the results with instantly, okay? You'll get the results instantly from radon, but what most bonehead inspectors do is they put the machine in this case, on the 10th day. So now you're not getting the results till, in theory, let's call it the 12th day. Most
Trademark.
good inspectors, what do you think they do? They put it in on the 7th or 8th day. So when they go to do the inspection, guess what?
They got the results.
It's already done.
Yeah, it's trademark home inspections.
And I'm not sure how Trademark does it, but that's what I would do, is just find out, just make sure they put it in advance. There's no reason they can't put it in advance. Okay? But no, I mean, you're fine. If you're, because again, Hope, whether you had 7 days, then 3 days, you're still in the same situation. If you couldn't get the results done in 3 days when it was 7 days, why is it going to be any different? That makes sense? Am I saying that right?
Your response doesn't have to go until you get the results, right? It's
Correct.
not based off of the 10th day. It's after you get the results.
Well, you should get the result the day you're there. There's no reason, if you guys are using inspection companies and you're not getting the results that day, you're using the wrong inspection company. I can tell you that right now.
And
Okay.
and Hope, if
Hey,
you wanna
hey,
do
Pete.
a Private regular inspection and like a septic or sewer inspection, you get the opportunity to complete both types of inspections before that
Correct.
3
Correct.
days start.
You're fine on this. And if something does come up, is all you do is you put an addendum saying, you know what? We need to do some more research on this. That's okay. But I wouldn't change that. Phil, was that you gonna say something?
That was me. So should she go back to the inspector and tell them, hey, they need to come on day 6, 7, or 8 and talk to the listing agent that they're going to come in and start early?
That's what I would do. I would say, if you're going to do radon, I would say, hey, Miss Agent, is it okay if we put the radon in on the 8th day. That way, guess what? We'll have the results. And what agent or seller doesn't want to get the results from an inspection as soon as possible, right? It's to their advantage that they get the results too. So we can talk about that some more, Hope, if you want to after.
Okay.
But this, like I say, you guys, with those 4 blanks, and we're gonna go over the PA because I just changed the PA and I actually, haven't I looked in there? I'm just curious to know if the PA was, the new PA is in there. Actually, let me see that now that I.
Yeah, this one is revised July 2019, the one we got in our book.
Okay, that's not the right one. Okay. No, it's not. It's the new one. You just pulled it yesterday. As of 2 days ago, it wasn't in there. So it should be in, I would think, tomorrow or today or Monday or Tuesday. So
So we come and pick it up?
it should be in DocuSign
Okay.
soon. There's about 7 or 8 different things, nothing huge, just cleaning some stuff up, housekeeping that I wanted to put in. So, have you heard on our PA?
I just like, just now, it's done that.
Okay. All right, well, it's not in there yet. All right, you guys, anybody got questions? You guys can't do the virtual Easter egg hunt. You have to be here in person. So have a marvelous weekend. Go out and sell
Happy
some
weekend.
houses. All right.
Thanks, Pete.
Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Okay, dokie. All right.